All right. Hello and welcome back to STL Toyota Off-Road Podcast. My name is Eric, and today we have a very special guest. Recently, voted number 2 podcast in the overlanding genre.
I guess. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know who makes those decisions. I wouldn't put too much stock in it. It could be some random weird guy in his basement for all I know. I don't know.
You know what? Take it. Let that random weird
Yeah,
guy give
Hey,
it to
if
you.
you Google it, it shows up at the top. So whoever it is in their basement, they're good at SEO stuff. I guess. I don't know.
Right. So, no, that's actually. I mean, that's. I don't care who did it or where you've seen it at. That's gotta feel good.
Yeah, it was a total surprise to me. Like, I mean, I don't, again, I don't know how often they do that, and it's not like they
Right.
contact you or like anything like that. But Cindy from Northology Adventures, who's one of my sort of sponsors and longtime friends in this genre, I guess if you will, she messaged me about it and like put it in her story, and I'm like, how did you know about this before me? But yeah, it was a big surprise. I mean, Overland Journal podcast was number 1, so of course I was like.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I'm never going to touch those guys, but like it was pretty nice to be up there with them. So,
Absolutely. Now, the Overland Journal podcast, I mean, I'm not going to give them any hate. And I do listen to their podcast from time to time, but their level of overlanding is way above anything that is achievable for me.
sure, me too.
You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah, they're pros, right?
I mean, I guess call it what you want, in this type of thing, but I mean, like the one guy's got an Earth Roamer, and I mean, that's the cheapest one's what, $500,000?
Something like that. Yeah, they're not cheap.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's a dream,
Right.
and I'm not dissing it because I'd love to have one.
Oh yeah, we could do it. We would do it.
Yeah, but then so you got your podcast, and then Lifestyle Overland's on there. Blue Ridge.
Yep, saw them.
Yeah, so I mean, those are all the Blue Ridge. I like them. The only thing I don't like about their podcast, which like I said, I'm not dissing any of their podcast, but they talk about their gear more
Oh.
than I really want to hear. I'd rather hear stories. And well, it says campfire stories, so I'd rather hear campfire stories.
Sure.
And Lifestyle Overland, I'm just a huge fan of them in general. So
Yeah, they're great.
anything they put out is gold right now.
Sure.
So you have the podcast, obviously, and you also have your YouTube.
Yep.
And I mean, so I don't know how you want to rate that, but how do you feel it's doing?
I mean, I'm really proud of the YouTube
Okay.
channel personally. I mean, I started it September of 2019 was when I decided, like, I had created the channel back in 2016. Never put hardly any videos on it. Like
Right.
a 2-minute long video of a dash cam, footage going up a rock hill in an off-road park, something like that. And I'd never been on camera in it or anything. I never really had any plans for it. I just thought, oh, it'd be cool to have my own YouTube channel. But then I never did anything with it until 2 years ago. And so then at that point, then I was like, I think I had like 80 subscribers. Like, I don't even know how that happened because I had the worst videos ever. But, 1 out of a million people that looked at it was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to like try to do this. Like, I'm really interested in overlanding. I had bought my Xterra, or actually, yeah, I had bought it. I bought my Xterra about 9 months before that. So it was like the very beginning of that year. So I was literally been on like 2 or 3 trips. And I was like, you know what? I'm just learning about this stuff. I find it fascinating and fun. I'm just going to start making videos about it, right? And so most of them are like this type, right? Like sitting at a desk talking about overlanding with not a lot of experience, but just kind of talking about my experiences and what I had learned and stuff like that. And I just kept going, Like I've definitely had some moments where I'm like, I think it took from September till March of 2020 to hit 1,000 subscribers, which I was actually really, really happy with. Like that seemed really fast.
Good growth. Yeah.
And then, but I think because of that speed, and there are a lot of guys and girls out there that are like hustling their butts off, and it takes a while. But I guess my tip to them would be keep doing it because you just never know, right? And so then since then until now, about a year and a half later, I've gone to almost 6,000. So I mean, I don't know that I'll ever be like the lifestyle overland folks because I'm not cinematographer or anything like that. I'm
Good.
shooting on an iPhone. You know what I mean? But that's not really my goal either. Like my goal is more to be like for newer folks, like to help them get into it like I've gotten into it, and then as I keep growing, sort of helping them along with me, that kind of stuff. And a lot of gear reviews, and I'm a big gear person.
Yes, you are.
So my content is a little different than theirs, but I mean, it's cool that everybody has a place, right? Like it doesn't matter what you do. That's what's been really neat for me is to see that even me, little guy with my iPhone doing gear reviews and stuff, can still like find people that are interested in chatting. So
it's all relevant, and there's such it's a very big community, and there's room for us all.
Yep.
Whether it's on an iPhone or even it's a cheap action camera from $50 on Amazon, right. and like you said, your suggestion is just do it.
Yeah.
And
do what really you want to do. Like that's It's definitely shifted over time. As I've sort of grown a little bit and like picked up sponsor, but I've always kind of focused on like my sponsors are all small guys, which I love because then they're like real companies that like really make cool products and stuff.
Right.
But as it's grown, like I haven't ever really felt that pressure. And I know a lot of people that have felt the pressure to like cave in and like say everything's great even when it's not, or like to only talk about, like you said, Blue Ridge gear, right? Like that's their business, right? So they're going to talk about their gear. I work with Last US Bags. Their stuff's great. I do reviews of their stuff and talk about it quite a bit, but I try not to be like overbearing or like injecting myself into every conversation. Like, oh, get this, like if someone asks, I'll offer it up, but try to be, honest about it. But yeah, it's interesting.
No, that's fantastic. And I mean, I think if your followers already know what they're getting into when they listen to you, your podcasts aren't very long, but you're very to the point. And I
feel like I ramble, so that's good to hear.
No, I mean, not really, but your rambling is still on point. You don't ramble off subject.
Sure.
You may ramble, but it's on point.
Right. That's good.
So there's that,
Yeah, that's great.
So you said you started your YouTube in 2016.
That's when technically, it says started in 2016.
So you had your Xterra then?
Yeah, that's when I got
cool.
it. So actually, you're right. I've had it forever. Yeah, I just recently got rid of it, but I almost had it. This December would have been 5 years. So that would be. I literally got the Xterra and started a YouTube channel, and then didn't put anything on it for 2 years. So.
Yeah, I mean.
Don't wait. Just start.
So, let's go through your lifespan of your Xterra.
Sure.
So when you bought it, what state was it in? Was it stock? Was it lifted?
Yeah. Good question. So I bought it bone stock. It was an 05 Xterra SE, so it's like the top trim of the Xterra, which doesn't mean a whole lot. It's still pretty Spartan. But four-wheel drive, of course, no lockers, open diffs. The Pro 4X, which is actually one tier below the SE, that's the one that you get the locker on. So I was looking for one of those, but couldn't find it. But it had about 94,000 miles on it, and I bought it off of a rich guy in the next town over from me for like $7,000. Nice. So, yeah, it was a steal. It was a pickup. I was looking at 4Runners for your reference, but it was like 99s through 02s with like 150 to 200,000 miles. And they wanted 10 to 12 grand for them, and I was like, I just can't do it. Can't do it.
Well. No, I understand, but I mean, back in 2016, I don't feel like the market was blown completely out of proportion at that point.
It wasn't. It was pretty good. Yeah, well, and to be fair, like a lot of dealerships had comparable Xterras to mine that were like 10 to 12 grand. This was a private party that I found it from. So, but most of those 4Runners were private parties actually too. So
yeah.
But I mean, they do hold their value for a reason, right? They're great trucks, but I was just man, that kind of mileage scares me, like something I'm going to daily for a while and then drive. And I've also never owned a Toyota, and I've driven a lot of Toyotas and stuff, and I've seen them in action. But I've owned a lot of Nissans, so I was like, you know what, this is low mileage, really, comparably, for that much money. And it lasted for 5 years. It's still running strong. The engine from that Xterra is going to go into the Frontier. So.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's going to keep living. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
we
just
were
beat the
gonna
crap
get
out of
there.
it.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
Cool.
just beat the crap out of it for so long that it finally just, I was like, it doesn't even make monetary sense to replace all these suspension components on the Xterra anymore. So,
But now you're taking the engine out of it and putting
yeah.
it. So I mean, it's still a lot of work, but it's a different kind of work. Uh, I mean, you had to weigh it out, but I guess so. I guess you kept the Xterra then.
Yeah, well, so it's kind of a tricky situation. So technically, so I bought the, so now for, those of you that don't know, I bought a 2008 Frontier that's really highly modified. It's built up by a local shop here in Indiana called P&P Engineering. They make a ton of like Nissan bumpers and armor and sliders and that sort of stuff. I think they make some Toyota stuff too, honestly. But he totally built this truck, took it to Moab a couple times and wheeled it. It's Titan swapped, so it's got the full-size truck, Nissan truck components underneath of it. UCAs, LCAs, CVs, brakes, all that stuff carries over to the Frontier. And it's on 35s. But it had 211,000 miles when I bought it. And when I bought it, I paid him some cash and I gave him my Xterra. So that was kind of how that deal worked out, where he owns a Nissan shop. He's got a ton of them sitting around. He's like, I got components. I can swap that out and I'll just resell your truck, right? That was the original thing, was he was going to take my old truck, fix up the stuff that needed to be fixed up, and then flip it, basically. And so he lowered his price on his truck, to make up for that, and we struck a deal. And then on my way home with the Frontier, the SES light came on, started struggling, ticking, clicking real bad. And the motor went. So what had happened, it sounds like, is he did the timing, all the timing stuff on it about 100 miles before I bought it. And I think something got done wrong, and he fried the motor. He's taken it to Moab twice, it's a clean Western truck. He bought it from like Colorado. It's like the underside is spotless. It's all clean as can be. But I think he just did something wrong in that timing and blew that motor. So now I get, so now he said, I'm going to make it right. I'm going to pull your motor out of the Xterra. He was going to do that originally, but he's been slammed with stuff. So I told him actually this week, I was like, if you pull the motor, I'll come get it. And a buddy and I can do it in a weekend. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's, it's same motor. It shouldn't be that bad. So we may do that to speed things up a little bit.
Yeah. So that's the 4-liter, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So, basically now I get a motor that I've had for the last 5 years that I know is strong with 70,000 less miles than the truck had. So, I'm going from 211,000 to 142 on my motor, and I know the history of it. So that's even better than, a random motor with less miles. So
I think you probably did all right here. Now, obviously it was a pretty big bummer, and I'm sure you went through some emotions, but in the end, it looks like it's probably going to work out in your favor.
Yeah, I think that should be fine. My other thought had been, I should just get like a 2022 Frontier, right? I really like the new trucks.
Yeah.
But they're so expensive. And I'm like, the first time I took that down a tight trail, I would just like grit my teeth and cry, Also, Nissans are really famous or infamous for their depreciation. So that kind of works in my favor too, where again, my thought was with this truck, if I can get 3 or 4 years out of it, then I could buy a 2022 or 2023 used truck with 40 to 60,000 miles on it for half the price, a little over half the price probably. So that'll probably be the next truck, will be the new body style Frontier, I'm thinking, here in a few 3 to 5 years probably. So we'll see.
The new Frontier, I like it, and I like the specs. And it's kind of undeniable though. If you set a new Tacoma next to the new Frontier, that's
all you Toyota guys. All you can talk. It looks different in its own ways, Like I totally get it, but kind of all the new trucks look like that, Like Colorado's kind of have that aggressive front end. Now their headlights are a little different. I get it. Ford Ranger is fairly similar too, like they're all kind of similar.
Yeah. I don't know, the Ford Ranger, that's got that sloped nose, and I just don't like that Ford Ranger. And I'm not necessarily a Ford guy anyways, but that sloped nose just kills me.
Yeah, but there are a couple of them that are really built, that are really sick, and they always make me go, but I just can't do it. I could do Nissan, I could do Toyota. Honda doesn't have anything, so they're out. But I would if they had a decent truck.
Now, I've seen you've probably come across some the Ridgeline, some Ridgeline Overland builds. Yeah. And they're trying, and they can look okay, in my opinion. But I mean, okay, in all reality, overlanding doesn't have to be, some 4x4 trail. So as far as like overlanding goes, it's capable as anything else. If you're into Hondas and that's what you want. I mean, Hondas are obviously very reliable vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's fine. You just don't have the you don't have the cool factor in Ridgeline.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really funny because since my truck's been down, like 2 weeks ago, I took my 8-year-old and we took my wife has a Honda Pilot.
Okay.
And like 2017. So I was like, you know what, honey, I'm just going to steal your SUV for a night and we're going to go to Hoosier National Forest and we're going to camp. I was like, I might make a video about it as like an option for overlanding. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised with it. I mean, you're right. If you're going to like Land Between the Lakes is near me, and like that trip that I took a little while ago where I was flexing out and like hanging my back tire, 3 feet off the ground. No, you're not going to do that in a Honda Pilot. But really, like 85% of the rest of the stuff I could have done in a Pilot. It gets twice the gas mileage of my truck. It doesn't, because it doesn't have 35s and a Titan swap on it. It doesn't throw rocks all down the side of it. It actually did fine. CarPlay, power lift gate to help me throw my gear in the back. I mean, it's actually was a pretty good option. So
now the Honda Pilot, they actually make that roof. What's it called? I can't remember the brand. The rooftop camper for it.
Oh yeah.
Venture Ford. What's the name of his camper? He's got the orange.
It's not Go Fast Campers, is it? I don't know.
I don't know, but I was randomly like seeing a Honda Pilot one day, and I'm like, that roof that looks weird. So I'm like, what's wrong with that roof? So I get looking closer, and it's a built-on rooftop tent where like so they replaced the roof and or cut it out and had the camper built on. And I'm like, well, for one, I didn't know that existed, and for two, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, depending on how much money you want to spend on a Pilot, I guess there's options.
Right. Yeah, I'm Googling it right now because now I've got to see this thing. Honda CVT maybe? I mean, these are just general rooftop tents, though. I don't know.
Yeah, so it wasn't a rooftop tent. It was where they
like a conversion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I was like, I just thought that was really cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is we've had like 3 Pilots now, and they're bulletproof, and they get like 24, 25 miles a gallon, especially on the highway. All-wheel drive is fine, like, again, it's not going to, get you up. Well, it may get you through like a Black Bear Pass or something. I don't know. I mean, it depends on how challenging the trail really is, but for most, at least here, definitely in the Midwest too, like I could do almost everything I do in that, get twice the gas mileage, have CarPlay, have power, everything, heated seats, like it would be fine.
Well, I mean, my daily driver's I have an 04 Subaru Forester.
Yeah. I was going to say we're going to make Subaru guys mad if we say they're not capable. So.
And I had originally, because I mean, my 4Runner is my harder trail road, and I had originally bought it for like an overlanding option in my driveway, and then it became like, you know what, I need to just keep this as my daily. I don't need to tear this up too.
Yeah.
So, but it's still capable. Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to Georgia to get my rooftop tent, the guy that went with me had a Subaru Outback. I think Outback. Yeah, a little wagony thing. And his has like 230,000 miles on it, and it's lifted like 2.5 inches. And I mean, he beats the crap out of it. I mean, he's replaced the motor multiple times in it, and really? He replaces CVs like every trip, it sounds like. But he's like, I can do them in an hour now. I'm like, that's kind of good, but it's also kind of a problem that you have to do that every trip. But but it's, it did great.
255,000 miles in mine.
Jeez.
Original engine, and just this summer I'm an hour below St. Louis actually. Okay. So we went down to Panama City in it and back. So I mean, 1,500 mile trip, and
that's some confidence right there. Yeah, it must be strong.
I'm not gonna lie, taking a car with that many miles on a long road trip was a slight bit concerning.
Yeah.
But after it did that, I'm like, well, shoot. I mean, let's take it to more places. I haven't yet, but
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, they're great car. I've always liked Subarus a lot. It's the same issue though, right? It's one is space for me, like with and I don't go with the family a lot, but they do like to go, and so like when I say let's go, then even the Xterra, I had taken out part of the 60-40 split seat for my drawers to slide in with my fridge on top. And it's like the kids had to be like smashed together in half of the back seat, and so even that was a little bit too much. And once you throw in all their gear and stuff, plus my drawer system, plus all the rest of that stuff, the last time we went, we actually took the Pilot and my truck, anyways, just so that we had enough room for all their stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
The Xterra is cool, and I do like how small it is. And I'm not. I mean, I'm a Toyota guy, but I don't hate those at all. I would drive one. I mean,
sure.
I've told the story on this podcast already, so my listeners have already heard this. But you're a Nissan guy, so I want to tell you this. We had it wasn't our event, but it was another Toyota group in the St. Louis region.
Okay.
We had an event at a off-road park, and there was 20 Toyota rigs there. So I get there late. I'm there for 10 minutes. So there's this waterfall that I've never been able to climb before. But for some reason, I'm like, I'm going to climb this today. I don't know why I think I can climb it today. Though I've never climbed it before, never came close to climbing it. But anyway, I got an audience now, so I got to do it, right?
Right.
So I'm there late, been there 10 minutes. The other guys have been there a couple hours. So I go up there to this waterfall, and I try it 3, 4, 5 times. I'm not making it. The other guy that runs this group with me, he's at the top of the waterfall. He goes, you better stop. You're done. You're not going to make it. So I'm the guy that said, oh, just one more time,
Yeah.
So I try it one more time, and I spit my drive shaft out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So if I would have stopped at the one more time, that would have been fine. So anyways, all it was is just the U-joint. No big deal. We get it out of the way. A couple other Toyotas tried it and probably could have made it, in all honesty, but one guy didn't have sliders, and the other guy his was pretty rigged out, and he just didn't feel comfortable doing the whole thing. So this guy in this Xterra, a Nissan Xterra, so I'm talking, this is a Toyota event with 20 Toyotas there. This Nissan Xterra just goes up to it, and he goes, I think I can do it. And I'm like, well, yeah, probably, maybe, yeah, let's see it, I said, I'll video it. So he goes up to it and just walks right up this waterfall like it's nothing in front of all these Toyota guys. So I'm like, oh, okay. So get out, you can go home now. But no, it was pretty cool.
The best when that sort of stuff happens. But it's also like, you don't want to be a jerk, but then if you didn't make it, then it would look bad. So yeah, that's great. Then he made it.
He made it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Everybody kind of just like, once he got on top of the waterfall, everybody just kind of like got quiet for a second,
Right.
But I have that video and I haven't posted it yet. I should post that on the page.
You should,
but,
yeah.
It's funny. And he had it really cool. He had the back windows. I'm not sure if he bought this or made this, but he did. He had the gold wings, yeah.
I think people make them. Like there's, I don't think they're out yet, but like Rugged Bound Supply Companies made them for like the 80 series. Yeah. I think they've got them for that, and they might have them for like 4Runners too. And I've pinged the owner of that company and been like, Xterras, but I guess it's good that he hasn't made them because I don't have an Xterra anymore. But I've seen those. They're so cool. Like it seems like such a great use of space, So.
Well, I mean, okay, let's just say as a overlander or off-road build in general, I mean, what are we using our back windows for? Nothing.
I have stickers all over mine. I can't even see out of them.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, we're not using them, and then let's just say you get in a tight trail, you're more likely to break that back window than anything.
Yeah.
Let's just pull them out and put it, those the gold wings in them.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I had a drawer system, so like seriously, that space was just a hole that I couldn't even hardly get to beside the drawer system. But if I had some sort of like shelves or like a little cutout with a little cubby in there, like recovery gear or first aid stuff, fire extinguisher, anything like that could have gone in there and been fine. So
a little molly panel behind there, clip some stuff on.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't need to be much space, but I mean, something is better than nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
And it gives you the, it gives you the confidence of not breaking that window.
Right.
I mean, I have a third gen Toyota. I don't know if you could order one new.
Yeah.
Good you might have to go to a junkyard and get one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know how you get that.
Right. I mean, I guess, in all honesty, if I ever, broke my back window, I would probably try to make my own gull wing.
Yeah. I really think that it's like, I mean, if you think about it, it can't be that hard, right? Like, I mean, the window right now is just like a weather seal with glue on it, basically, to glue the thing in. Like, same idea, but put the weather seal on the door and just sandwich it down. I mean, you'd have to watch it for not leaking at some point, but I think you can.
Yeah. I mean, my truck's been underwater anyway, so the water doesn't really matter too much. Yeah. I'm not joking. It's been completely submerged.
Nice.
Hydrolocked it. And hydrolocked it. We pulled it out of the water, pulled the spark plugs out, blew the water out, put the spark plugs in it, hooked up to my camper, and drove it home.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
I'm still driving it. Yeah.
Well, that's that 80 series at Lexus LX450 that went with me to LBL. Yeah. He hit a puddle hard. So hard that it shook a fuse loose and like shut his truck off in the middle of like a 3-foot deep thing that was up to his door sills in the 8. And he has a 3-inch lift in 35s. And I had to dead drag that heavy thing out of that mud pit with my Xterra. So like in the video, there's a video of it, but in the video you can see my Xterra like squatting in the mud, and I'm revving the engine to give I have a 12K winch even. And I mean, it had no problem, don't get me wrong, it pulled it right out, but like the whole Xterra is like squatted down in the front, and you can see mud pushing up in front of the tires as I'm dragging him out. But I mean, same thing, right? Like he gave it a few minutes, turned it over. It ran a little weird for like 20 minutes. So we were getting nervous. We're like, we got to limp this thing out. And then by then it just figured it out. It just sorted it out and kept going. So he's still driving it now. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. Like they just seem to figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah. It was scary at the beginning though, because when that thing started back up and it's like, and I was like, dude, you can't. We were in the middle of a 300 trail and Land Between the Lakes, and it's like, we'd just gone through some crazy stuff and there was more crazy stuff in front of us. And I'm like, I can't like drag you through a super off camber ravine. Like this is way too sketchy. Yeah. And we didn't want to leave it. So
of course
luckily it worked. So,
I mean, obviously that's a big fear and that's a risk we all take every time we take it out. It scares the crap out of me, in all honesty, having to be way back in the woods and having a problem so big you have to leave it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, it's funny.
Gear. Yeah.
That's like, I mean, that's what I kept telling him. The funny thing is, like, I mean, my rig is a little bit newer. His is like a 98 or something like that. And he bought it for like $6,000 or something, where he's just 65. I don't know what it was, but some low amount. But then he had to do a bunch of work to it, right?
Yeah.
To get it running and everything. It has like 280,000. I mean, it's crazy. But like, that's the whole way through. I was like, we don't know how deep that is. I'm going to bypass it because we're overlanding. We're not wheeling here. And he's like, full throttle send through everything. And I'm like, when that one finally happened, I was like, have you learned your lesson yet? Have you learned why? This is why you don't do it here, because we are literally 8 hours away from home in the middle of the woods. And if that breaks, like, I'm going to take you to a gas station so you can call somebody, or I'm going to leave you. I can't stay here forever because you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you just mentioned a point, one of we're off-roading, and then there's the overlanding.
Yeah.
And in our group, we have it called, it's off-road. But the off-road, we want that to be known that it's not just about wheeling. I'm more geared towards the overlanding. But like you just said, the overlanding, you don't do the stupid shit when you're 6 hours from home. You have to drive that home. It's and it's scary. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like CV shafts can go bad without any abuse at all. Things happen,
right.
But the farther you are from home, the less, I mean, for me personally, the less dumb things I'm willing to do.
Right.
I mean, I went to Colorado, it's been 2 years ago now, in my
Mm-hmm.
4Runner, and I literally lifted it and took it to get in alignment, and my rack and pinion was bad. Not bad, it was cracked, but
Oh
still
wow.
working. It's still working. So
Yeah.
this is a brand new lift, never like no miles on it, and my trip was the next day. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna not go to Colorado. So
Right.
I took a untested vehicle out to Colorado. You know, we did like Engineer Pass and a few of those, but Engineer Pass really isn't. It's not
Crazy.
really that bad. It's just gravel roads, and I mean, there's a few small off camper spots, but
Sure.
I was so nervous being that far from home with
Right.
a very untested vehicle, and
Bet.
I was up at. I have a picture next to a sign, but I was up at, I don't know, almost 13,000 feet, and I just wanted to check my oil because just randomly check my oil. We stopped, taking pictures.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna check my oil real quick. So I checked my oil and I put the hood down, and we get down and we get to Silverton. By the time we get to Silverton, my engine's making a weird, different noise.
Ugh.
So my oil was fine. All my fluids were good. I didn't really have
Yeah.
no concerns. I looked underneath. Everything's looking good. Everything's feeling fine. But it's
Yeah.
making a weird tick. So I'm like, I don't know what this is. I opened the hood and I didn't put the oil cap back on when I checked my oil.
Yeah.
So now the weird thing is I still had all my oil. It didn't blow any oil out.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the weird tick, I couldn't identify it, which made it think worse because I know I'm good in oil.
Yeah.
So now, if I knew I was low on oil, I would know what the tick was.
Right.
But I wasn't low on oil, so now I don't know what the tick is.
Right.
So I checked over everything. Everything's mechanically seems fine. And to this day, okay, one day I was driving it and I got on it. This was like months later. It kept this tick. I replaced a few small cheap parts, no big deal.
Yeah.
Months later, I got on it one day. And when I got on it, it goes kapow, like a really bad backfire,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, my engine just blew up,
Yeah.
And it died. And
Oh
I'm
God.
like, oh my God, what just happened? So, I pull over and I'm like, I don't even want to get out of the car right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I finally get out and I go check everything. Everything looks good again. All my fluids are good.
Nice.
And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I start it back up, fires right back up, and that tick is gone.
Okay. Don't ask questions. Just keep driving it. I don't know what to
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what to say. So I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Maybe that's what I need to do with my truck with the motor is just get out there and just like rev it to red line and just see what happens.
So is it still running? Is it still start?
Yeah, it still runs. I mean, it's just got a tick and it feels down on power. But like I drove it, so we moved about a month ago within my neighborhood, like a half a mile. But I mean, I had driven it home from the guy's shop and got it in my driveway and it's going clunk 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 clunk. And I took a video of it real quick and sent it to him, and then I didn't start it up for a month. I put it on a trickle charger and just let it sit there. And then I was like, hey, we got to move. Like, I got to move this thing. It's fully loaded with all my gear. It's got my rooftop tent on it and stuff. Like, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess if it breaks, we just take a tow strap and hook it to the back of the Pilot and drag it over there. But I started it up, backed it out of the driveway. It was embarrassing to drive because it just sounds like garbage. But like, it drove fine. Like, it drove fine the whole way over to the house. Parked in the new house. I moved it around a couple times in the driveway. It still runs okay. I mean, it'll move, but it just doesn't feel great. It feels like you're like, just nails on a chalkboard to me. But
yeah,
I want to be able to move it for when I do. I've thought a couple times like maybe I should just take this out and just not go within a mile of my house and just like get on it and see what happens. I mean, I was driving it on the highway on the way back with the check engine light on, going 70, 75, and it didn't feel great. It felt down on power and stuff, and the check engine light was on the whole time, but it didn't even start ticking until I got home. So, at least that I could hear.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to tell you to go out there and just rev it up, but I mean,
I don't think it's gonna fix itself. I don't think I'll be that lucky with this.
I mean, sometimes crud just gets stuck in weird places, you know. I mean.
Yes, yeah, I don't know. I think what it is I think that again when he did the timing, something wasn't right. So either the timing itself is off,
I'm sure
or something's come loose. Because there was a ticking, and then for a while there was like a really loud, like it sounded like rod knock almost in the bottom of the pan, like the bottom of the engine, and I was like, oh, that's really bad, and that's actually kind of gone away, and now it's just the ticking in the top. Like I let it run for like 10 minutes a couple weeks ago. The guy that I bought it from actually came by just to he's like, let me just come and look and let me check it out. Let me check the spark plug, see if there's anything crazy, ignition coils melted or anything like that. And he's like, and we let it run for like 10 minutes and it just made the ticking the whole time, but it idled fine and ran the whole time and was fine. So like, again, I mean, but I'm telling you, it was a scary drive home. Like trying to get up to 70 miles an hour. And I was like, maybe it's because it's on 35s. I've never driven a 4-liter, you know, with stock gearing on 35s before. Maybe that's just what it's like. But I mean, I'm telling you, like my motor is strong. My motor is super strong, feels great when you drive it. If I floored it in my Xterra, that thing, they get up, they're actually surprisingly kind of quick for what I mean, not fast, but they get up and go. And this thing was like, I mean, I've never seen the RPMs that I was seeing in this thing. I was at like 6,000, 7,000 RPMs in this thing, and it was going 1, 2, 3 miles an hour faster. Like it felt like, I was like, is something slipping? Like what is going on? I almost got rear-ended by a semi, you know, it was terrifying.
So is the Frontier and the Xterra same transmission, same gearing?
Same everything, yeah.
Okay.
Same everything. So
obviously it's going to be a little more sluggish with the 35s, but
yeah. Well, I just want to feel it with like a good strong motor in it, because then I personally think it's going to turn them fine. Like I mean, I had 33-inch 285s on my Xterra, and I literally didn't notice the difference between the 31s that were on it stock and the 33s that I put on it. I mean, you know, you can tell that they're bigger, but I mean, it still got up and moved just fine, you know?
Right.
So like, I just felt like, the whole time that I was driving this thing, like literally, and part of my problem was I had an event the next morning. I was supposed to leave at 4 a.m. the day after I bought it to drive 12 hours to Michigan for an overlanding event.
Yeah.
So that was part of my like mental garbage that I'm like, yeah, it feels a little weird, but it's probably just the 35s, you know, and I'll just drive it home. But it felt super sluggish, and like I've sort of felt like it had like an exhaust leak, you know, like it kind of felt like sputtery and like kind of down on power. I was like, maybe it's just 35s combined with an exhaust leak, but I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I hope it sounds like it's going to get resolved regardless now. So, you know, so I'm glad for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the good thing is part of why I bought it is because it's loaded out with stuff, right? Like it's got custom front and rear bumpers on it with a swing out. It's got the 35s on it. It's got all the Titan swap parts. It's fully armored underneath, sliders, rack on the back, cab rack. I mean, worst case, it has a decked system in the back of it too. So like, I mean, it's got some pretty nice stuff on it. So I kind of figure absolute worst case. I mean, again, I want to drive it. I didn't buy it to flip it or like strip it and sell it. But again, if I get like 2 or 3 years out of it, I'd feel pretty good about that. And then I think I can still sell pretty much everything off of it and make back probably at least half my money by then. So we'll see.
One thing that I didn't actually know until I did a podcast with Michael Hayden a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize that you could Titan swap a Nissan so easily. Everything bolts right up. I didn't know that. That's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. There are a ton of guys that do it. And you can even, so people get it confused a lot when they hear Titan swap. They think it's a V8 swap. That's the VK56 swap. But you can take, with an engine harness and different motor mounts, I think, you can VK swap that truck. So you can put a 5.6 liter out of a Titan into a Frontier for like, you know, the cost of the motor plus like $1,000, $1,500. So, I mean, there are supercharger kits. Why do that?
Jeez.
Like, I would just V8 swap it. So
that would be a beast, man.
Yeah, there are a bunch of VK swapped Xteras and stuff running around now, and they are like, you watch videos and it's like, holy shit, like that thing would surprise some cars, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that Nissan engine, I mean, the V8 is a
it's
pretty
a strong
damn
motor.
powerful engine. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one of the Toyota groups here. He's got a. It's a brand new Tacoma. He's got a custom box on it, but he went down to Tennessee and he blew his engine.
Jeez.
In it. Yeah, so it's a pretty new Tacoma, and I'm really surprised the engine blew in it. But he's got 37s on it, and he's got a pretty good build. But he's doing a what is it? I don't know the engine code. The V8 swap in the brand new Tacoma.
Okay.
And you don't see that very often. Yeah.
No.
So I'm actually he's working on it right now, and I can't wait to see how that turns out.
It's gonna be sweet. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's like the 4-liter in the Xterra is plenty powerful. I mean, like you said, walk up that waterfall. And so I've done that myself. I actually, one of the very first time that I took the Xterra out to Badlands, which is a park here in northern Indiana, and I've been there a number of times. I used to have a Jeep back in the day, and I'd taken my Jeep there a bunch of times, so I was fairly familiar with it. But I went there, and there was a Toyota group from Chicago there. Now, to be fair, they're from Chicago, right? So they're probably not that used to off-roading stuff. But there was like this sort of rock wall, and the FJ Cruisers and the 4Runners and stuff were like getting a third of the way up, halfway up, and stopping and sliding back down and having to back up and try it again and stuff. And again, I'd been up it probably like 15, 20 times, right? Like not like a million, but like more than once or twice. And so I walked up to it, I drove up to it, and I was like, all you got to do is just keep your throttle constant, right? Like it's about not freaking out and like giving it too much or too little throttle and losing your momentum. So I just went right, like just like 2,500, 3,000 RPMs, walked right up this thing. And the exact same thing you said, right? All the Toyota guys at the top, like, what the hell? Like, what? That thing got lockers? And like, no, man, it's got a 2.5-inch lift and 33-inch ATs on it. That's all I had done at that time. But I mean, they're super capable with the 4-liter though. They've still got plenty of ground. Like they're like 286 pound-foot of brake torque. You know, like they're pretty beefy little motors. But God, if you threw a V8 in that thing, I mean,
I couldn't imagine. In all honesty, my sister has a Pathfinder with a 4-liter in it, and I drove it several times. And that 4-liter, it's not playing around.
Yeah, they're great motors, and they're surprisingly like. You know, I mean, I will every day give you Toyota guys the like mantle of most reliable vehicles, right? I totally get that. I totally agree with it. But the 4-liter is actually a really great motor. Like it's kind of funny because Nissan gets made fun of a lot, but like that 3.5-liter that they had in literally everything for like 20, 25 years, like that motor's doing 500,000 miles consistent. You know, like those things are strong. The 4-liter is just a bigger bored out version of the 3.5-liter, you know, like their motors are good. Their transmissions are a little suspect. Their CVTs are definitely suspect. But the rest of them are all right.
Well, I mean, let's go with with American brands. I mean, these LS engines, an LS platform, I mean, that's a great engine. Let's go back older, and let's go back to the 4.3, like the S10s. That 4.3 for being introduced in
huge
I don't know. It's a huge V6, and it was introduced in the mid '90s, or maybe earlier even. And that thing was a beast. And a lot of people ran the shit out of it. But if you maintained it at all, that's a 300,000 mile motor easily.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's a lot of really good, reliable engines out there. But I think it's the nature of the people that are buying certain vehicles, maybe. Yep. You know, I mean, let's face it, like a 4Runner, if you bought a 4Runner, you probably didn't take it off road, like from a factory, most people. I mean, what would you venture to say even the statistics are? Maybe like 5% of the people that buy a 4Runner actually use it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's that, probably, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's the same with Xteras. Everywhere I go, I see like lady drivers of Xteras, which is great, no offense at all, but like we're like old guys, and I'm waving, and they're like, what's this? Why is that strapped to the top of his truck? You know, that's weird. I've seen like 2 lifted Xteras in real life outside of like events, right? Like just in normal driving ever in my life. It just doesn't happen. Same with 4Runners. I feel like get modded a little bit more, but like to your point, it's for on-road use, right? Like it's like generally they won't even get a lift, but they'll get some like methods or something, you know, like they'll get some different wheels and some more aggressive looking tires and like a ladder on the back, or and I'm like, you don't have anything on your roof. You don't even have a basket or a rack or anything. Like, what do you just think it's cool, I guess, or I don't know. Maybe they strap a kayak up there every once in a while. It could be practical, but it's hard to tell in Indiana where I'm at.
And you know what? I mean, I don't really. I guess I don't really care what they're. I mean, I just like looking at them. Yeah. I mean, they pass me on the highway, like you said. You know, you wave at them, and I got my traction boards hanging off the side. Nice. And most people don't even know what traction boards are.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure, yeah.
You pull around, like if you go to a Walmart parking lot, they're like, "What are those things?"
Right.
You know, like, well, they're traction boards. They're like, "What do you mean traction boards?" I'm like, okay, so if you're stuck in the mud or sand, you know, you put them under there. They're like, oh.
Then like, why would you ever go in that?
Yeah, it's a very uninteresting thing. But you know, and okay, let's put it this way: I've never used my traction boards.
Yeah.
You know, and I that's another thing. Most people that have their traction boards probably don't use them.
Yeah. Well, that's
a tool.
It's a good tool. I've the more time that I've spent with other people, to your point, like it goes back to that story I told earlier. Like I'm a very cautious overlander because like one, I don't want to screw up my vehicle. Two, like, and I don't mind doing it, obviously. I mean, that's how I broke my truck, right? Like I'm not doing just gravel roads in this thing. I am doing the hard stuff. Yeah. But if I take it into account, right? Like if I'm 10 hours away in West Virginia, that's a little different than if I'm 2 hours away in Hoosier National Forest. You know, like. Yeah. But the more that I've spent time with other people, the more that I've seen, like there are way more uses for traction boards than I even realized, right? Like I always just thought you're stuck in sand, you're stuck in mud, you put them under your tires. Like we used them in Michigan just a month and a half ago at that event. We had a guy in a Toyota Tacoma, really nice build, 37s, I think. He's is a pretty big built truck. And he tried to follow a Gladiator through, and this Gladiator's on 37s and lifted and all that stuff. Yeah. Gladiator went up over this sort of rocky section. The Tacoma went over, and he got a rock stuck right in between his armor and his frame. But so we were sticking we had him kind of like back up a little bit. He was able to move just a little bit on the rock. And then they stuck like 4 traction boards underneath of there to try and give him a little bit to bump up to get over that. It didn't quite work. We ended up having to use the winch, but like I was just like, oh, I would have never even thought to do it. Like that's a great idea, just to kind of build a bridge or whatever. So,
same concept as stacking rocks in that particular instance.
Yeah.
But you had the traction boards handy, and everybody had them, so use them. Yeah.
Right.
It gives you an excuse to use them. Get some mud on them. Get some scratches on them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But they're there when you need them, you know, and I don't have a winch on my vehicle.
Oh yeah.
Which keeps you another degree of cautious.
Right.
I do have a come along, and I have used it once, and I mean I was an idiot when I had to use them, but it was so dumb. I was by myself, you know, and the mud hole anyways, I got really, really stuck, and I was by myself and had to.
Oh God!
It was a situation. Let's just put it that way. It was a really bad situation. I got it out and it survived, but that was one of those times where, you know, when you're by yourself, you need to be extra cautious, you know. And hindsight, you know, I would have at least gotten a stick out and, you know, poked in the water, and I could have went around it, but the going around this mud hole, it was so tight. It was like you could see where 4-wheelers have only been going through it, you know. And I'm like, I don't think I can make that.
Right.
But
yeah, you don't want to get drug in sideways either.
Right. So you in that Michigan, you were overlanding your Infinity, huh? Is that Infinity what you're driving?
Yeah. So I'm a Nissan person, right? So I gotta have all Nissan all the time. But But yeah, so I mean, it's funny because before my Jeep, I was a car guy. Like that was it. I wanted fast cars. I had a 350Z. Those aren't fast, but I autocrossed it. It handled really well and was fun to drive, and I loved it. So I kind of stepped up. That's kind of how I got into Nissans, was actually cars. I leased like a '03 Sentra SER Spec V back in the day, which had like a 6-speed and 2.5-liter 4-cylinder out of like the bigger Altimas and stuff, but in a little Sentra. It was a fun little fast car. And then I got the Z, and then I had a 72 Datsun 240Z with a Chevy V8 in it, which was really fun. And then we found out we were having a baby, so then I sold that. But I bought a Jeep as like, hey, this is a practical. I bought an XJ Cherokee, And I was like, this will be like a great off-roading, family car that we can,
Trying to sell
and
for the wife. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. About that, and then I had an '04 Infinity G35X, the all-wheel drive one with a rear mount turbo on that. So it was about
Oh, wow.
300 wheel horse, and it would surprise some cars. It was a lot of fun. And so then I like the Infinities. I like I have 14 speakers in that thing and heated seats and power everything, and
Yeah.
it's low and it's aggressive looking, and I just think it's a great looking car. And it has the 3.7 liter, which came after the 3.5 liter for us Nissan guys, and they've been making that since like late 2000s probably, and it's just bulletproof. So I have that car, but yeah, it was all my only option, right? The truck broke, and I was like, I can't steal my wife's usable SUV with the kids at home and stuff. So I was like, I guess I'm taking the car at 4 a.m. tomorrow. So,
and didn't I see you had traction boards under the rear of that?
I brought my Camco leveling blocks with me. Yeah, I leveled it out just for fun. Didn't move the whole time we were there that whole week, but I got to ride with a bunch of other Toyota and Jeep guys, so it was fun. But yeah, it was. I just had to do something.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have missed out either if I had the opportunity. That'd be I know the Upper Peninsula is beautiful, but I really didn't know of the overlanding opportunities up there, I guess.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff to explore, right? There's a ton of like lighthouses and just cool places to see, but there are actually quite a few, and I wouldn't classify their trails as particularly challenging per se, but like Cliff Mine Trail, there's some stuff in a video that I did on that where, that's where the Tacoma guy got stuck after the Gladiator guy. And there's some rocky sections and stuff. Again, I got through them in my Xterra, 2 years ago when it was, 2.5-inch lift and 33s. I tapped armor a time or two, but you could, if you just took better lines, you wouldn't even touch anything probably. So it's fun. It's beautiful. There's tons of overlooks, and it's fall time, so it's getting pretty up there with the leaves. Yeah. It's really neat. So
it really did look like it. It looks like you had some nice, some really cool people to hang out with too.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. It's weird. The YouTube thing, like as you grow, like then you meet, like most of those people I had never met before in person. I met Jeremiah from Overland Pioneers, and I met Matt Fry from Fry's on the Side before. But other than that, like I'd never met Matt from Ozark Overland Adventures or Rob. Actually, I met Rob before too because he's friends with Jeremiah. But so it was like all these YouTuber people. And so like when they heard the story, they were all laughing and making fun of me. But they were like, I was like, hey, can I ride with you? Like, I'm not going to drive up there and like sit in camp all day. And they were like, yeah, of course, ride with me. So I got to, shoot some video and ride in some pretty cool trucks, and it worked out pretty well. So
yeah, that's really cool actually. And I guess you got used to drive the Toyota while he could get some content.
yeah, it was pretty neat. That thing's a beast. He actually has not modified it all that much. He's got a little lift and some slightly bigger tires on it, I think, and maybe a couple pieces of armor. But that's about it. It reminded me of the Xterra, right? Like they're very similar trucks. They got that same sort of low pitch sort of grumble from the exhaust, and it just felt very similar to it. But it did everything that we needed it to do. It got up that Cliff Mine Trail just fine. So it was good.
His YouTube channel, Revere Overland. Yeah. He has, you can see the growth through the years, and his growth is actually significant. It's not gradual. And
I think he's over 70,000 now subscribers. Oh, wow. It's crazy. Yeah, he's huge.
His cinematography is really good. His voiceovers are really nice. And he's making some really big trips. These aren't small trips he's making, and he's really doing a very good job editing. And I really got to hand it to the guy.
Yeah. He's super talented. The British accent doesn't hurt either. That's what I give credit to. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's a great guy, and he is super talented. The drone shots and stuff that he get. It's crazy. It's crazy. So
he's doing really good. I really like it. Yeah. Now, as far as like his videos go, and I'm going to compare it to Lifestyle Overland. You can kind of pull some similarities out of it, but they're different enough.
Yeah.
It's not like watching the same thing. It's not like watching the same thing at all, but the cinematography is getting there, and you can tell that he's probably taken some YouTube lessons basically from Lifestyle Overland. Right. And then Matt, he just does a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Ozark
is
Overland Adventures now.
yeah, he's going out all the time.
Yeah, he's full time now.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
is he
just
full time?
He's a YouTuber. That's his job. Yeah, he quit his other job.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he and Rob both are full timers now. So that goes to show you, if you stick with it long enough and make good enough content, again, like they're shooting on nice cameras and stuff. Rob more so than Matt. Matt is similar to me from like a style standpoint. He does use a pro camera, and he's got some nice GoPros and stuff. But he's a little bit more similar to that, like down to earth vloggy type style. And then Rob is the the cinematographer type, the story till now, or the but without all the drama and clickbait stuff. And not that that's a bad thing. Like the story till now is amazing, but his is more just like, here's what I'm going to talk about, and then he just does it, and it's very informational and interesting and well shot. Like, I love all those guys. I think they all do great stuff. And it's, again, that's back to that same point, right? Like, it doesn't matter. There's so many people watching so many different types of things that it's really cool to see everybody like growing up together and getting better, So.
Well, you just mentioned like, well, I mean, every YouTube that we've mentioned, we all are watching the same thing, obviously. So the story till now, my God, his videos, where he's at though, helps him out so much.
I know, I'm super jealous.
I am so jealous.
Yeah.
I didn't even know, like, okay, we have Colorado and we have there's places like that to go, and that's amazing. But he makes it, and it's probably not like that, but he makes it look like all of that area is just insanely beautiful.
Yeah.
And he's incorporated the jet skis into it.
Yeah.
So he's doing different things, incorporating into it, which, I mean, with growth that comes anyways, you start to take different ways and do different challenges. So his cinematography is, man, he probably pays more attention to his cinematography than, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's amazing. I don't know. Yeah. It's amazing.
It is. Yeah, they're really great.
Yeah. But I mean, with each one of those, you try to take a piece and you incorporate it into what we're doing. Like you said, the Matt's more the vlog type stuff, and he does use the drones, and he does have awesome shots, and he's taken these awesome trips to create content.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to start. I'm going to start working on him to come on the podcast.
Yeah. I think. He's a super nice guy. Just hit him up. He's very approachable.
What I've learned so far with the podcast, which I'm still a newbie, but I just thought it was funny that really the only thing you have to do to get somebody to come on your podcast is ask.
Yeah. I mean, that's really true. That's.
Yeah.
I pretty much everybody that I got interviewed by another guy earlier this week, and he was like, I couldn't believe that you were. I'm like, dude, I'm just a normal guy. Like, just because I happen to have a YouTube channel, like, I'm still just like a dad from Indiana that makes bad jokes and like likes to go overlanding. But like, realistically, I maybe go on like 10 or 12 trips a year, right? Like, I mean, it's not as dramatic. I mean, until you go full time, right? Like, if I get to 50,000 subscribers someday and I'm making so much money that I can't afford to not go on trips, then maybe I will. But I was like, dude, I love talking to people. Like, it's, that's why I've made so many new friends through YouTube. Like, people that I never even met, but they're like, oh, you do YouTube and you have more than 1,000 subscribers, so you've been doing it for long enough, like, they're all super nice for the most part. Some aren't, but I mean, it's a very small percentage that will ignore you or not say anything to you. So I've been pleasantly surprised too.
Yeah, the networking aspect of it, I really enjoy. I mean, obviously the off-roading and overlanding is a passion, and I love it, and that's what originally got me into it all. But the meeting new people and the networking is one of my favorite parts of it.
Yep.
You go to let's just say an overlanding event or more, and then that's awesome in itself. But when you're out in the woods and you come across somebody from has an out-of-state plate, and you get talking to them, and you get a perspective from somebody that's nowhere near you.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. I just love talking to people and talking about different things.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. It's awesome. There's There's another Xterra folks, Mo Leisure's X Ventures is their channel. They were at Core this year. But they were like, I had same thing, like I had kind of like seen them online and I was like, oh, they have an Xterra, yeah, follow, whatever.
Yeah,
and
right.
I talked on some, like left them comments, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. They're going to all the national parks around the US, like trying to hit all of them. And so like I'd kind of followed around, and then they were like, they randomly messaged me and were like, hey, we're coming through Indiana next week. Are you gonna go? Would you go camping with us? And I was like, hell yeah! And we just all met up in the woods and sat, and exactly what you described, right? Like they're from like out west somewhere, and we just sat and talked about trucks and mods and trips, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because that's the centric thing. The camping is what brought us together.
Sure.
The camping, the overlanding, and then you're around the campfire, and yeah, that's what the obvious conversation is, but where it goes from there is what I like.
Yeah, it's a lot of
there's
fun.
Stories, yeah, because I mean, I'm from middle Missouri, you're from Indiana, and I mean, relatively that's not all that far, but
sure.
it can greatly different from just on either side of a state.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in the worst place because there's literally nothing. I mean, I guess I can't complain because we do have a national forest. There are no trails. Yeah. There's no off-roading really. But I mean, I could also go to Kentucky in 6 or 7 hours, and there's some cool stuff down there, or go up to the UP in 12 hours. I mean, it's a long ways away.
Yeah. I am literally 1 hour from hitting national forest land where I'm at.
Nice.
So it's the Potosi district of Mark Twain National Forest.
Oh yeah.
It gets really nice really quick. So I'm pretty fortunate, yeah. But when you're growing up, you take this all for granted. You're like, oh, Missouri sucks. Everybody does that wherever you live. This is so stupid. This sucks here, And in all honesty, I didn't appreciate where I lived until I left.
Yeah.
When I went to go see the big mountains of the Smoky Mountains or the Rocky Mountains, which is mind-blowing. I love it. But
I lost you for a second. You're back.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So I came back with new eyes.
Yeah.
I seen everything else. I came back with a fresh sense of everything, and really started diving into exploring my area more.
Yeah.
Which I really was glad that happened.
Yeah, that is cool. There's some guy that has a Frontier, I think, near me that I randomly stumbled on Instagram, and he lives in Ohio, and he posts these epic videos, and I'm like, where are you going in Ohio? And he's like, well, this was like if you pulled off the road and went down under the bridge that the road went under, and I'm like, or went over, and I'm like, I don't know if that's legal, but it looks cool. I mean, I don't know that I can come and follow you on your adventures, because like I think he's just piecing together like random little off-road spots he finds into like what look like epic trips across Ohio, and I'm like, I don't understand it, but I'm shocked and surprised by it. So
the Instagram effect.
Yeah, right.
Which I mean, we're all guilty of it. You can post at the edge of a parking lot and make it look epic sometimes.
Yeah, that is true.
But I mean, like there's the cross country highlines. Now there's a lot of trails that go underneath the cross country highlines, and I mean we do hit those trails sometimes.
Sure.
And it's one of those things, like you said, technically it's not legal. But a lot of people have done it for a lot of years, and there's never an issue. But it's always that point, where like I do it sometimes, but it's like I'm always nervous. I don't want to be nervous where I'm doing it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not worth it. That's I recently talked about in one of my episodes how to know where you can go and can't go. And when we were on that LBL trip a few months ago, we ended up on this trail, and it was a 2-track. I mean, and on our Gaia GPS, it was like it looked okay, but like we got like a mile or two back on this trail, and it kind of just like petered out, and we're like, well, I guess we need to turn around. And we started to turn around, and we got a little ways back, and I came across like 20 people on horses.
Oh, okay.
And I had my windows down, because I always have my windows down unless it's like raining or whatever. And this guy starts yelling at us.
Oh
He's like,
no.
"What are you doing back here? This is not for cars. This is for horses only." And I was like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, can we get out of your way? And like, we got out of their way and pulled into the woods kind of and let them go past us. He's like shaking his head. And I was just like apologetic the whole time. And we just got out of there. But like, it's
Yeah.
tough sometimes. You don't want to do anything wrong, but it's going to happen. I was a little pissed that he was such a jerk about it, since I was like, I haven't done anything. Like, I'm being super nice and apologetic. And like, I'm clearly surprised that I'm not supposed to be back here, right? Like, it's not like I'm
Yeah.
laughing and chuckling and doing burnouts back there or anything. We weren't tearing anything up, but felt a little bad about that one.
I mean, the Gaia maps aren't. They do show old tracks sometimes,
Mhm.
and old Forest Service roads may have gone through there at one point in time.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I get it, and I mean, we've all made mistakes, and we've probably all
Right.
been yelled at, But
Yeah.
you do your best
Right.
to you do your best to do your best.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
That's all you can really do.
Yeah. I mean, I just always try and be self-deprecating and apologetic with people, and 99% of the time that works. I've never been
Yeah.
arrested yet, so
You better knock on some wood.
yeah.
But so have you ever had any like bad experiences overlanding or off-roading or anything like that?
Oh, not really. I mean, I went to West Virginia, so that was about a 10-hour one-way trip, and I did light a brake on fire on that trip, so that was fun. Somebody got on the radio and they were like, "Hey, you have smoke pouring from your passenger rear wheel well," and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I got out and I got my my extinguisher out, and I ran around there and I'm like looking at it, and the brakes are like glowing. And it was
Oh my
just really, really
gosh.
hilly. I'm from flat Indiana, so I wasn't like engine braking or anything. I mean, mine's an automatic, but it does have 4.32. I could have engine braked some, but I just it never even occurred to me until my brakes were about to light on fire. And
Oh my
we poured some
goodness.
water bottles on it, cooled them down, waited a few minutes, took off. It was fine. I just
Yeah.
started engine braking and I was fine. But that was a little scary. I've had DNR come up on me multiple times, but
Yeah.
every single time they've been really not like. I'm sure that they're faced with a lot of like really crazy people out there. So I'm just
Yeah.
always like hands out in my pockets, like, "Hey, how are you? What can I do for you?" Like just try and be as nice as possible. Get away from like any place where I might have like weapons or like just try and be as accommodating and nice as possible. And every single time, I've never gotten in any trouble. It's always been nobody usually gets to this spot, like because they're in
Yeah.
like Chevy Volts and stuff driving through the woods looking for a camp spot 2 feet off the road, and I'm looking for one that's like a middle
Yeah.
of nowhere. And they've always been really nice and just it's always been fine. I've never had any crazy things. I did have an argumentative couple once, like middle of the night, like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I'm sitting at my campfire. My campfire is really low because I'm kind of letting it burn down. I'm getting ready to go to bed.
Right.
And I had my kid with me, and I hear like a man and a woman like arguing, like yelling at each other. And they're
Oh
walking,
no.
like I haven't seen any cars for hours. Like, I'm like, how did they get here? Like, how long have they been walking? And they're just like arguing and fighting. And they walked within about 100 feet of my camp. And I don't think they ever saw me, and they just kept going. And I was like, oh, okay.
Good. Yeah.
But there's been weird stuff like that. But I mean, again, nothing ever like threatening or like dangerous. I mean, I've been surrounded by coyotes 20 times probably, and you
Yeah.
just make a bunch of noise and you just ignore them and they go away.
I actually love that. I mean, it does kind of make their hair on your back, your neck, stand up sometimes, but that is such a really like intense encounter with nature that
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, that just happened a couple weeks ago in that pilot trip, and it's in this video that I'm dropping on this Sunday. This podcast
Oh,
is a
really?
video; it'll be in there, but you'll get to hear what I'm talking about. The coyotes were nuts that night. So,
Like, how close you talking? Like,
I mean, they were, they're never that close. They
right.
sound a lot closer than they are probably, but the weird thing is how they move, right? Like you'll hear them, like they'll get all loud for like 5 or 10 minutes, and they're over here, and then like an hour later, they're like way over here. Or it's a
Yeah.
different pack, but it's like I'm just always like, oh God, are they circling me? Like what's going on? But yeah, I send it to my wife sometimes, and she's like, oh my God, you have our 8-year-old there in a hammock. He's like a burrito
Fine.
for the
Yeah.
coyote, and I'm like, these coyote do not want to mess with us. Like we are not enough of a
No.
snack for them to want to mess with us. So
It's not even a concern at all for me.
yeah, I've literally never actually seen one like come into camp or anything ever.
No, skunks, possums, raccoons.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I don't think I've ever had a coyote that close that I know of, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, not I was asleep if they did.
Yeah. So, in all your time in the woods and camping, have you ever had? This is going to be like I'm going to start asking all my guests this. I started with my last guest. So that right there is a Sasquatch tattoo.
Okay, yeah.
Have you ever had what you think could possibly be a Sasquatch encounter?
No, never.
No?
I had a bear
Nothing
poop in my
strange?
tent in West Virginia, but that's about the closest I've
Oh
come.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was like 4 feet away from the door to my tent, and I never heard a word. I slept
Wow.
through the whole night, and I woke up and I was like, "That's a big pile of poop." And one of the guys was like, "That's bear scat." And I was like, "Oh, fun, that's cool." I was
That's
in a tent
cool
then, not a
and
rooftop tent,
scary.
ground
Yeah,
tent. Yeah. So, but I mean, you live or you die. I don't know. The bear didn't
well,
want me
that's
at that
true.
time, I guess.
When we were in Colorado, we were in the Rocky Mountain National Park. It was me and my oldest son at the time, and we we were in one of the campgrounds inside the park, and we had in our tent, and I mean, there's wildlife everywhere. I'm talking, moose and elk and deer. I mean, there's just all kinds of wildlife.
Yeah.
So, we're sleeping, and the elevation gets to me pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sleeping really well anyways. However, I don't know. I'm going to say 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up like just out of a dead sleep because the whole tent goes whoosh, whoosh like that, like really loud. And like I'm sleeping, so I'm not sure exactly what happened. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not sure. I can't process what happened.
Right.
So I was thinking maybe a storm, maybe.
Yeah.
So I stay awake for a few minutes. I'm kind of like listening and trying to get my bearings together. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't hear a storm and I don't hear any footprints. I guess I'm fine to go back to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I go back to sleep and, I wake up in the morning and when I unzip the tent and I make a step out. When I step out, I trip from one of my outrigger strings, the one in each corner.
Mm-hmm.
It's in front of the front door. My ankle gets wrapped around the rope, and I'm like, what? That wasn't supposed to be there,
Huh.
Like, why is that there? So I get to looking, and a moose had came through our camp at night,
Jeez.
and it must have tripped over that outrigger string, and that's what shook the whole tent.
Oh God.
And then it threw that around, and so that was a really cool, and it possibly could have been a scary situation, but it was
a fun way to wake up.
yeah. So I mean, it makes for a neat story, and I'm kind of fortunate the way it happened, like not really knowing what happened at that time, because if I had been more awake, I may have opened the tent door and spooked it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So I'm glad the way it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, but to your point, it makes a good story, right?
It does. It makes a good story. I got it on my Instagram. I got a picture of the footprint and,
Nice.
and how it all went out. So it makes for a good story. It was it's really neat out there.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, I've never been near animals that big. Like I need to learn more caution with that sort of stuff because, like, again, in Indiana, to your point, it's like raccoons, maybe possums, maybe I think we might have some small foxes and stuff. I mean, but like nothing like a bear. And like I just hang a trash bag up on a tree usually, and that's all I do. Like I don't worry about it much. But yeah, bears are a whole different thing. So
is there
everything? Is
there no bear in Indiana?
No, we don't have anything. We don't have anything.
So in southern Missouri now we have, actually this year was the first year that they opened up a bear hunting season.
Huh.
So we have enough bear to have a hunting season on now.
Yeah.
And last year they opened up elk for the first time ever.
Okay.
So we have enough elk and bear on top of, all the wildlife that we have to have a season on them now.
Huh.
So it's pretty exciting. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter, but I'm actually against the bear season at this time.
Huh.
I just don't feel like there's enough to be able to thin out yet. I'm like, well, what do
Yeah.
we do?
Yeah.
Because not that many people have uh, not that many people see bear.
Sure. Right.
I mean, you see them every now and then on Facebook. Oh, we seen a bear, blah blah blah. But like,
Right.
is there enough to go hunting them?
Yeah. Who knows? I guess the
Yeah,
forest people would know, right? Like they're the ones that make those decisions, probably. I don't know.
yeah. I just feel like it was premature, and
Yeah.
I hope I hope it's not about money on this one.
Oh
About
yeah.
selling
Good point.
tags. We do have a really really good conservation department in Missouri, so I can't complain about the conservation department. They do a fantastic job here. We have a very healthy wildlife here.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah. Well, all right. I'll tell you what. It's after 8 o'clock, and we've gone for almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I tell you what. I mean, is there anything you have to ask me, or anything to say?
No, I mean, I can, if it helps for like wrap up and stuff, I could like talk about the bare bones of like what things I'm on or whatever platforms.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
happy to do that. If that's what I usually do is say, tell me about, or if it's easier, you could say something like, I'll put links in the description, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I can talk about it. If it's easier, you can do something. You tell me. Sure.
Yeah, I want you to go ahead and say everything with all your endeavors, and
Okay.
then I will definitely link it all below. Oh, before you say that, I was just looking at your Facebook profile before I messaged you on Facebook.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But you said that you're a forensic.
Oh God. Forensic
What was it?
anthropologist. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
technically my degree. I've never done anything with it, but yeah,
oh,
that's my
really?
degree.
Okay. I just seen
Yeah.
that, and I'm like, what? Really interesting.
It's literally like it was a complete gaff. Like so I started taking pre-vet stuff because I was like a young kid. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm like, vets make a lot of money. I like animals. Let's do this. And then I hit like chemistry and biology. And it was super hard, and I was
Okay.
like, this sucks. But I had taken some anthropology classes. I was like, these are interesting. So I was like, I'll just switch to anthropology. I'll get a degree in something, and I'll go sell cars or something and learn my way around like
Oh,
sales
okay.
and
Okay.
business and stuff. And then they started offering forensic anthropology, and I was like, ooh, that's actually like cool. Like I'd like to do that. And I got out of school and I like applied at a couple sheriff's departments, and they were like, yeah, we'll pay you like 25 grand a year, and you'll work nights and you'll catalog evidence. I'm like, can I get promoted? And they're like, nah, but you could like work for a few years and then like apply places. And I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. So I
That's a
didn't do
shame.
anything with it. But yeah, it was fun
It
though.
sounds cool. It sounds cool.
It's I always jokingly say like if anybody gets murdered at this camp out, like I can probably help figure out what happened.
So yeah, tell us where everything you're on. Tell us your YouTube, your podcast, where we can find you, when we can find you, how we can find you, and
Sure.
all
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, my channel obviously, as you probably already know because you're watching / listening to this episode, is All Things Overlanding. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I've got a podcast called the All Things Overlanding Podcast, a YouTube channel. If you search for All Things Overlanding, you'll find it. It's it's everywhere. It's all over the place. But yeah, feel free to come and hang out, subscribe, follow. Love to have you guys in the chat and conversation. I like Toyota guys too. I'm not a hater at all. I happen to like Nissans, but I'm really leaning. I've actually been doing a ton of research on GX 470s and 460s. Like,
Ooh,
I just really like
nice.
those trucks. I just really like them. So who knows? Maybe in a few years when the Frontier dies or something, I might get a Frontier. I might make the switch to Lexus. I don't know. Might get bougie.
Have the wife get that, so you can have both.
That's a good idea. The problem is she's not like a trucky truck person at all. Like if it's lifted, she like her pilot is about as extreme as she likes to get. So we'll see. Maybe a 460 would work.
Work on it, yeah.
Yeah. She's never
Well,
driven one, so she might like it.
Yeah, it's not that tall. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean,
Not stock.
yeah. that'd be perfect. A perfect door. Then you
Yeah.
can start working on your sponsors.
And she comes home and she's like, "Why is it so tall?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
It's the same as when you left it. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
These new Nerf bars, yeah,
They're side steps, honey.
Yeah,
Get up, yeah, to help you.
they'll help you. Well, all right. I really do appreciate you coming on here, and it was a really neat experience, and it's. I hope to get where you're at. I mean,
Sure. Yeah, you will.
soon enough, and I mean, you have You have really good podcasts, and
Thanks, man.
I can't say that I listen to all your episodes, but I listen to a lot of them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I download them, listen to them at work, and um, a lot of gear centric stuff. So I mean, all these listeners, listen to this guy if you've got any kind of, you're in the market for anything. He's let's just probably cover it.
Budget stuff at least. So
yeah, which I like, and I mean, most of us, or most all of us are on a budget.
Yeah.
Let's face it, all of us are on a budget.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the people that aren't on a budget probably don't listen to overlanding podcasts. They just go to a shop and say, "What makes this cool?" and they just pay somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But thanks
for
having
me. Yes.
Yeah, right. Someday.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's been fun.
It has been fun, and thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully sooner than later we'll meet up at one of these overlanding events and maybe do a little one-on-one.
So
you gonna do a podcast from there?
I don't know if I'll live podcast or not. I have a lot of trouble getting content at these events because I just can't. I'm Midwestern, so I'll talk to someone for 4 hours, and then I'll be like, shoot, I just lost a whole day, So I need to I need to get a script or something together for hey, I'm so excited to meet you too, but I got a video to shoot or whatever, and just go do my thing. But it's hard.
I've been trying to run it through my head how I'm going to do it, and you're going to almost have to limit yourself to 15 to 20 minutes with a person.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to miss out on the event yourself either. You want to go see all the cool stuff.
Yep.
And it's going to be so much bigger this year. They got it outside and they got it in spring.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Last year was zero.
Oh, yeah. I planned on camping, and then we ended up getting a hotel room because it was we're going to die. We're literally going to die.
That's the same thing we were going to do. Yeah, there was no degrees. There was just none of them.
Yeah.
They weren't there.
Right.
Well, all right. I am going to finally wrap this up, and
good luck editing.
I appreciate it. I think this is perfect, actually.
Yeah.
But maybe I will, maybe I won't.